Dr. Ronnie. Hey, oh my God,
Hi.
it's so good to see you.
So good to see you too, Dr. Nam. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we almost met last time at the Manhattan, right? Last
We
Thanksgiving.
tried. We
We
tried. Yeah, I think
tried.
weather
Okay,
weather was
I might go
against
again.
us.
Yeah, we have another opportunity. So thank you so much for because you mentioned your post this February is a AMD Awareness Month.
It
We,
is, yes. Every February is Macular Degeneration Awareness Month, and I try my best to make people aware, to educate them about this disease and what they can do about it.
Right. Actually, I have a family member having some challenges as well. So it's a very deeply personal topic. But I don't know. In our clinic, we have some treatment as well for vision therapy as a uh, combined with the acupuncture treatment. So you have a very interesting title, like you're neuro ophthalmologist and integrative eye doctor, Dr. Rani.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
this is your book. I'm so honored. I mean, when I got this book from you, I was just so excited to read, and then it's an amazing book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
So let's talk about deep dive into the AMD topic here. So, by the way, what is a AMD, by the way?
Yeah, so the full name is age-related macular degeneration.
Hmm.
And as its name implies, it tends to happen in older people. So usually 70, 80 and above. But that being said, there are people who are even younger with AMD. Like there are people in their 50s or 60s with AMD, and the numbers are rising, which is kind of frightening because this disease it can really affect your vision in very deep ways. But it's estimated that about 20 million people in the US have AMD, and that's more than Alzheimer's and Parkinson's combined. So it is the number one neurodegenerative disease in the world. And the eye is part of the brain, so it's neurodegenerative disease. Now, what happens in AMD? I'm going to pull out my eye model to show you. So when you think about the eye, most people just think about the very front part of the eye. That's what we see when we're looking at someone. But there's actually a lot going on. And if we open the eye up and take a look, a little sneak peek into the eye, you can see like all the different structures here. It's quite complex. But when we're talking about AMD, we're talking about the very back part of the eye. And this is the retina. This is the very back part of the eye. The retina collects light and then it sends these light rays, it transforms them into electrical energy and then sends them to the brain for processing. AMD affects this portion of the retina right here. And this portion is called the macula. So age related macular degeneration. So it affects the macula, and our macula is responsible for our high resolution vision. So, like 20/20 vision comes from our macula. And what happens in AMD is that it's actually a multi step process. So, first, there's oxidative stress, then there's mitochondrial dysfunction, then there's inflammation, and then there's new blood vessels that form that are not normal. These blood vessels bleed and leak, and it causes vision loss. So, it's a multi step process that happens over years and decades. It's not like it happens overnight. But basically, it affects central vision. So remember, I said the macula is responsible for our 20/20 vision. If you don't have a healthy macula, imagine having like a dark spot right in the middle of your vision, like it's gray or blurry, and it makes it very difficult to see in the middle. So to read, to use a device, to see faces, to drive, it's very debilitating when your central vision is missing. Yes, you may still be able to see on the sides just fine, but imagine like you have two big
Hmm.
dark spots in the middle. It's very tragic actually when people get to that end stage of macular degeneration and they're not able to function.
Is that the one side or is it both side?
Usually it's bilateral, but sometimes it can be asymmetric. So one side can be more affected than the other.
Hmm.
And what I'll tell you is that, I said it happens over years to decades. There are actually different stages of macular degeneration. So there's early, there's intermediate, and then there's advanced. And it's only in the advanced stage that people actually lose vision. So in
Hmm.
the early stages, people may have no idea that they have macular degeneration. They may have no symptoms whatsoever. In the intermediate stage, they may start to have a few symptoms, but then by the time they get to the advanced stage, that's the stage we don't want our patients to get to. And that's where their vision is really affected. And they may not even be able to read the big E on the chart. That's what we call 2200 vision, or basically like the threshold for legal blindness. So if you can't read the big E on the chart, unfortunately, that's legal blindness. And we don't want
Mm.
that to happen to our patients.
Yeah, that is the some burning question I have is like that. So you have a stage, but if you can catch that early enough, I guess you can maintain or even hopefully it's reverse or maybe maintain. So what is the early sign of this AMD?
So most people have no idea that they have it. No symptoms. In the earliest stage, there are no symptoms whatsoever.
Wow.
But if you're really caught, if you're a very observant person, like if you're really in tune with your vision and what's happening and you're noticing small changes, you may notice that it's a little bit harder to read in dim lighting. Like you need more light. That's one of the first features is it's harder to see at night, harder to read in dim lighting. You may have to enlarge things a little bit. Those are some of the earliest symptoms if you're very aware of this. But a lot of people don't know that it's happening because it's happening very slowly. The next stage is when people may actually see, let's say you're looking at something straight like a door frame. If you're looking at something straight, it may start to look a little bit wavy. So some distortion in your vision, which by then people probably notice, oh, something's not quite
Mhm.
right with my vision. And that's a sign that, oh, maybe something is evolved in the back of the eye and maybe it's advancing to a higher degree of macular degeneration. But we call that metamorphopsia. It's a fancy term where things are like wavy.
Mm.
And then the end stage is where people actually have like a blob or a dark spot and missing parts of their vision. So let's say you're trying to read a word, the center letters may be obscured. So you may be able to read the beginning of the word, the end of the word, but the middle few letters may be very, very hard to make out. So those are some of the symptoms that people may experience.
Mm. So what is, I mean, why people get this? What is there any risk factor other than just age?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Dr. Lee. So, age is a major risk factor, but genetics is also a major risk factor. So, if you have, let's say, a parent with macular degeneration, or let's say a grandparent or a first degree relative, your risk is much higher,
Mm.
unfortunately. And it's not just one specific gene. There are over 50 genes that are identified associated with macular degeneration. So it's really you may have some genes, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to develop the disease. It's nurture nature and nurture, right? So the nature is our genetics, and the nurture is all the other things that are happening to affect our genetics and epigenetics. So, how does our diet impact our vision? How does our lifestyle or stress impact our vision? So, all those things put together can increase your risk of macular degeneration. One of the major risk factors we know is smoking. And I'm sure you lead a very healthy lifestyle, and hopefully most of your audience does as well. But if people smoke, it almost doubles their risk of developing vision loss from macular degeneration. And we know this from twin studies. There are actually some identical twin studies where same exact genetics, and one twin smoked and the other twin did not smoke. And the twin who smoked had a double risk of developing vision loss from macular degeneration than the twin who did not smoke. So this is well established. Beyond that, other risk factors. So there was we'll talk about toxins and pollution first. There was an interesting study done out of England where they looked at different levels of air pollution and different people's risk of macular degeneration. People definitely who were more exposed to air pollution, like people who lived in more urban environments, had higher rates of vision loss from macular degeneration versus people who had less exposure to air pollution. So think about things like that.
Mm.
Diet is a major, I would say it's number one, two, and three in terms of modifiable risk factors. We know that people who have healthy nutrients in their diet, particularly nutrients called lutein and zeaxanthin, if you have enough of those nutrients, your risk of vision loss from macular degeneration can be reduced by 43%.
Wow.
43% just by
That's
eating
a
enough
lot.
lutein, just having that in your diet, lutein, zeaxanthin. So, where can you get these foods? I talk about it in my book, but green leafy vegetables. Yeah. So if you're eating like lots of spinach and kale and collard greens and Swiss chard, you're getting those nutrients. And what I mean by lots is this may seem like a lot to some people, but 3 to 5 cups a day
Hmm.
is typically what I recommend. And hopefully you're able to do that. But some people can't eat leafy greens. They don't like the taste, or maybe they have an oxalate sensitivity and they can't have leafy greens. In that case, you can get your lutein and zeaxanthin from egg yolk. It's that beautiful orange color of the egg yolk is because of lutein and zeaxanthin. You can get it from some fruits, like depending on the season, like peaches, nectarines, mangoes, which I love, by the way. And then there are some other foods as well that have lutein and zeaxanthin. And if you're not getting enough, take a supplement. I always tell my patients if you think your diet is
Hmm.
not enough to give you what your eyes need, take an eye supplement with lutein and zeaxanthin.
Yeah.
That's why I have my supplement line. I have this is my eye supplement. It's called
Hmm.
Fortify,
I
and it's
think
in
it's
the
here
book
like a
as well.
45 here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has
Yeah.
basically all the important nutrients to fight macular degeneration. So take to consider that, but do it both ways. Like don't just rely on a supplement. Food first, so your
Hmm.
body's getting it the way nature intended, but your supplement can be your backup.
So the what's the most effective medical lifestyle, like a strategy to prevent or slow the progression of AMD other than just a nutrition part? Because there's a lot of circulation issues, inflammation issues, my aggravates, I think.
Yeah, I think you hit it. Like it's all those things, right?
Hmm.
So you want to keep your body in an anti-inflammatory state, right? So whatever's going to promote inflammation, you want to bring that down. Diet again has a lot to do with it. So if you're eating foods that are pro-inflammatory, like processed foods, ultra
Hmm.
processed foods, foods with high sugar content, all of that's going to fuel inflammation in the body, and you want to reduce your intake of those. And actually, there was a study that showed that people who eat a lot of like baked goods, like processed, like muffins, croissants, fried foods,
Hmm.
processed meats, like deli meats, their rates of macular degeneration are higher also because
Wow.
these foods are promoting inflammation. So you want to reduce those foods in your diet to reduce your body's level of inflammation. I'm also a strong believer in stress management
Mm.
because when our body's in like a high stress, high cortisol state, your body's going to be on defense. It's going to be in a very inflamed state. And so you want to address all of that and also promote being, and I'm sure you do a lot of work with this also, Dr. Lee, is, the sympathetic parasympathetic balance,
Hmm.
right? You want to not always be in a high alert sympathetic state. You want to be in a more rested, you know, I don't want to say passive state, but just more relaxed state
Yeah,
and
more
promote your
parasympathetic. Yeah.
parasympathetic
Hmm.
nervous system. So all of that is important for macular degeneration. Just, these are all things that aside from whatever your genetics may be, you can't control your genetics. Like if your family member has macular degeneration, you can't control that. If you have genes for it, you can't change that. But
Hmm.
what you can change are your diet, your lifestyle, your stressors, your toxin exposure. And another thing is movement.
Mm.
Just simply being more active. Like there was a study done looking at people who are sedentary versus people who had different levels of activity in their weekly routine. Like, and it showed that people who have, like 3 or 4 hours of some kind of movement activity have lower rates of macular degeneration than people who are more sedentary. So just try to move more. Like you don't have to go out and run a marathon, but just, get up and do some stretches, do a little bit of yoga, do just walking, going upstairs, like things like little things like that can make such a big difference in reducing your risk for macular degeneration.
I mean, you are such an expert because I just learned, and then you have a book coming out with this specific AMD topic.
It is, yes. And so I've been working on this book for a long time, actually, since 2020. It was pretty much done in 2020, but I ended up publishing my other book first, the Beyond Carrots book. But now I'm going back to the macular degeneration book. It's going to be published later this year. So it's called The Macular Degeneration Solution:
Mm-hmm.
7 Integrative Strategies to Fight Vision Loss from Macular Degeneration, which is what I like to call macular degeneration a leaky eye syndrome.
Oh,
Yeah.
never heard that words.
Yeah. So You probably never heard it because I came I coined it, but basically, people, we always talk about leaky gut, leaky brain, leaky skin. Macular degeneration is a leaky eye syndrome. And what happens is in the macula, which has a very strict blood supply, the blood stays in the vessels. It doesn't normally leak out into the retina. The vessels become leaky because of inflammation. And when blood vessels leak into the macula, when you get blood in the macula, that's the advanced stage of macular degeneration. That's the wet stage of macular degeneration. That's what causes vision loss. So you don't want that leakiness to develop. It's not just blood, it's actually blood and lipids and proteins and just fluid. And all of that can cause vision loss. So this is what I talk about in the book. What is leaky eye syndrome? What are the root causes? What can you do to prevent your body from going down that path? And I would say the good news is that because it's such a slowly progressive disease, it doesn't happen overnight. You have time to intervene.
Mm.
Right? There is time. It's not like you have to do something immediately. Like slowly start implementing these changes of what I explained about diet and toxin exposure and stress and movement. Try to incorporate more of these anti-inflammatory lifestyle modifications, and you can really significantly reduce your risk of developing macular degeneration. Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, I don't want people to feel like it's fate. It's going to happen. That's not the case. And also, I've actually worked with some of my colleagues in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture,
Mhm.
and using a lot of those strategies as an adjunct for macular degeneration. And I am so impressed by the results I've seen, honestly, like, working with the meridians and herbs and everything. Like, I'm a strong believer, like, we need to approach this disease collaboratively with a team effort. So, yes, you may have your ophthalmologist that you're seeing, you may have your retina doctor that you're seeing, maybe you're getting treated for macular degeneration the traditional route with eye injections. I know who wants to get eye injections, but you can couple that with a lot of what I've talked about, but maybe find a practitioner who can incorporate traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture and maybe even other modalities, other complementary modalities into your care. And that's really the best way to do it.
That is such a empowering statement because the you said it's gradually getting not really worse, but it's progressing. And then as soon as you realize that you have a problem, it's kind of end stage. Still, you can make an improvement. So, what kind of a treatment in conventional medicine we are utilizing? What is available right now?
So I hate to say this, but it's the traditional way is basically like a wait and see type of approach. Like, let's just wait for it to get to the advanced stage and then we'll treat it, which I am so against. Why are you just going to wait for something to progress when there are things we can do? And a lot of eye doctors don't even know about these things we can do, even though it's published in scientific literature like nutrition, lifestyle, et cetera. But most eye doctors will wait until it gets to the advanced stage. And then when it gets to that advanced stage, people have already had vision loss at this point. Like, they've already had damage to their retina. Then they start eye injections, which are
Oh,
monthly injections. And, I have to say it's not ideal because it's an eye injection. It's not without risk. It's painful in many cases, and it's very expensive. These drugs are very expensive, and most insurances will cover it, but still, like, why do you have to subject patients to monthly eye injections while you could have prevented it from happening? And so that's a traditional approach. Now, the other thing I will say is, I said there's early, intermediate, advanced. So for the intermediate stage, there is a supplement that has been studied. It's called AREDS 2, or Age Related Eye Disease Study 2. It's a formulation that's been studied that can help slow the progression to advanced stage by about 28%. So,
wow.
yes, you can take a supplement, but eye doctors will only recommend that supplement for intermediate patients. They won't recommend it for early. They won't recommend it for people who have a family history, but they don't have it yet. I'm a big believer, like, let's start early. Like, why are you going to wait until it gets to that advanced stage? I tell all my patients, like, if you really want to prevent macular degeneration, start today. Change your diet, start taking a supplement, and do whatever you can because your vision is so precious. Like, why would you risk it? I don't understand why you would just wait and risk it. Um,
Vision, vision. I think more than 50% of our sensory is a vision. I mean, I 100% agree with you. So important to have the vision, and the vision loss just devastating for so many people. So, I mean, just I kind of a little curious why your second book is, or maybe it was the first book, or you reverse, but what made you interested in this AMD? Because there's a lot of other eye disease. Do you have any
there
specific
are.
reason?
Yeah, because I realized, when I started studying, so I did my traditional training. I practiced as a traditional ophthalmologist for many, many years and neuro-ophthalmologist. Yes, I did surgeries, I prescribed medications, the traditional route. But then I became aware of integrative and functional medicine and the power of all of these things that are within our control. Again, nutrition, your lifestyle choices, et cetera. So I got certified in it. And when I started using these approaches for my patients, the people I noticed that it helped the most, honestly, were macular degeneration and glaucoma. Those two
Wow.
diseases, I saw reversal. And I saw people who made these changes, who were really like, I'm all in. I'm going to do whatever I can. I don't want those eye injections. They started implementing these changes that I recommended to them. And some of them were able to get off of their eye injections, which is incredible. Because most eye doctors will say, oh, you're going to do this for life. You're going to get your monthly eye injection for the rest of your life if you want to maintain your vision. But in some of my patients, I was able to get them off completely or at least extend it out. So it's not every month. Now, some of my patients, they can go 3 months, 4 months without an eye injection. So even that's a big positive step, right? Not to be reliant so much on those treatments. And so that's why I decided to write the book because again, a lot of my colleagues in eye care, like ophthalmologists, optometrists, I respect them greatly, but we weren't trained in this. So they don't know. And so
Mhm.
that's really the reason why I wrote that book first was to get the information out for patients, but also for my colleagues to educate them like, this is what you can be telling your patients. And don't just say we're going to wait and see because that's not good enough.
Oh,
That's not right.
that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for, I mean, as I said, I see a lot of functional medicine doctor, but I don't really see a lot of eye doctor in this field. So you are very unique and very precious to me. It's very precious because I know how important the vision is, as you said. So can you tell my audience and then people watching this how they can find you, Doc?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my website is the best way. So drranibannock.com. You can find I have a podcast as well. And I would love to have you as a guest on my podcast, Dr. Lee, the IQ
Okay.
podcast. I'll invite you soon. I have my books are there. You can find links to my books. And this is also, I want to extend this invitation to you all. I'm doing a summit and it's called the Eye Summit. And I invite you all to join. It's happening in May of this year, May 11th through May 15th, completely free to join. And please, 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 if you want to learn how to protect your vision, not just from macular degeneration, but from everything, dry eyes, glaucoma, eye strain, from being on a screen all day, please join the summit because I have some great, amazing speakers who are sharing their expertise.
Wow. Thank you so much. And they're keeping up this great work because this is so important. And then I really appreciate even spending some time with me in your busy day. And thank you
Oh,
so much,
thank
Doc. I
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you. And I appreciate you so much. I love the work you're doing and getting this information out there about acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. You're really at the forefront. So, congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.